A very good morning to each and every one of you here at this end, and hoping that the second time is the charm. Let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. Let us know if you're seeing us clear as well. Those of you who are joining us from all over the world. Maybe it's not kind of Friday, it's just the wear and tear on the system. But a second try at our program this morning. We had a little blip in the system when we started. Do let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. Do let us know if you're seeing us loud and clear. All of you who are joining us, guys, great to have you folks on the line again. This morning, it's the 15th day of September, folks. Half the month is gone, and the rest of it's just gonna go by like that. It's just gonna go by like that. It's good to have Aubrey Stevens here, and Carla Smith is here as well. Stacey Ann Stoll, Cherry Derrida, and Deborah Pearson. We want you guys to hear us clearly. We want you guys to see us clearly as well. Lola Greenwich is here too, and Fidel Albert says it's clear now. Good to have Sylvia Allen. I'm not gonna touch anything. Beryl Crawford is here too. All the other folks joining us. Good to see you, Sean of Fortune. Gilali Cock is on the live this morning, folks. Share at your end. Help us to get through to all of those other places. Credible, valid information all of the time, folks. I want to thank you guys so much, for pitching in and doing your part too, in helping us to be on air day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. Even now, 3 years come this November, we're out here, bringing you guys valid and credible information. I want to thank all those who've been up on our program, joined our program last evening with Rickford Burke, talking about some of what's going to happen at that conference. The Washington conference on Guyana is coming up on the 7th and 8th of this month. Folks, we want to get down there to Washington, over there to Washington, and bring you guys all that's going to be taking part in that conference there, the Washington conference on Guyana. And we crave your indulgence to ensure that you partner with us, because all that you do for us here helps in that regard, getting us there, bringing us back, and all of that, and ensuring the real heart of it is ensuring that you guys have valid and credible information all the time on these issues. And as you folks know, that conference is generating a lot of interest. Sharon Mercurius, Pauline Chalmers is really generating a lot of interest. Maxie Monroe, thanks for your comment there. Kurt Heidekan, we see you there as well. And Andrew Griffith. That conference is generating a lot of attention. As a matter of fact, this whole trip that the Guyana government installed, albeit just made to Washington, D.C., is kind of trying to blunt some of the momentum going into and coming out of that conference in Washington, D.C. We saw them meeting with a number of persons in the U.S. of A. We can talk about that later on in our program. Ingrid Crawford, we see you there. Ellen Austin, we see you there as well. All the folks heading off to work, coming in, or in between. Good to have you. Antonia, the Rhine is heading off to work. Elizabeth and Raymond, they're on special assignment this morning. We want to wish them all the best. The folks who are here with us. Thanks for being here with us, folks, and thanks for being such a gracious host. The folks at our end putting up with us, for close to about 2 months now. We're watching our time here wind down. We're watching our time here in the US wind down as well. But we got some things to do before we get to that point. We got Georgia coming up this weekend, folks. Looking forward to seeing many of you in Georgia. We have an asterisk over our program this evening because we're going to be traveling. We don't know if we're going to get to base in time to have a program this evening. So if you see a notice of tonight, you'll know why. I'm looking forward to being there in Georgia tomorrow and also being in Washington, D.C. the 27th and the 28th. Of course, to bring you all the updates and the latest on that front. Sharon Mercurius, we see Andrew Griffith is here with us, Dolly Anderson here with us too, and Elizabeth Howard and John Jones. We see John as well, the folks who are joining us by Facebook, on YouTube, the tubers. Those of you who are joining us on Twitter, some of you joining us on LinkedIn. Good to have all of you. Bernard usually joins us on LinkedIn, one of those special people who join us on LinkedIn. Bernard, good to see you. there this morning. I see Roy, Garawish, Sheena Hazel here with us. Sharon Murray here with us too. Folks, all the other guys joining us. Naomi Druck is here as well. You know, maybe because Naomi didn't come on from the inception. We had the chink in the system. Shannon Wills is here too. Happy Friday. It's been quite a week, folks. It has been quite a week. And guys, you know, this trip at the US has been the longest I've stayed out of Guyana ever. You know, the longest I usually come for about a week, less than a week, and be out, gone back home. This has been the longest. So we had to do a couple of things as we were out here. And we just got to do what we got to do. And then work happened to have this conference he's hosting with some other organizations in tandem with his organization, the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy. And we wanted to be there. We can't come this far. We don't keep it's happening on that side as well. Guys, we're looking forward to bringing you valid and credible information on that front. Please and thank you. I see all the comments. Um, there. Naomi says she got the feeling that my host was pulling me up the internet. That too. Yeah. They're simply gracious people. You Naomi would pull us off the internet, but we trust the people of this. We trust the good folks at this. And we got a question mark over you, Naomi. When we come down by your end, you know, we start by you, then we're gonna be very afraid. We're gonna be very, very afraid when we come down to your end. Folks, we hope that you're hearing us loud and clear. I see someone, I don't know this is earlier, was saying they couldn't hear us clearly. But please let us know if our audio is clear now. Please let us know if you can see us. Those are two of the most important things. You can see us clearly. You can hear us clearly. Teresa Azor, Hazel, we see you guys. Folks, I really want to encourage you. I know last time you didn't have a chance to help us on our drone project, which we started and accomplished, and we did the unboxing of that. But we want to encourage you guys to continue to contribute to our program so that we can get from point A to point B. We are available via Zelle and Cash App and PayPal and MMG, even still available via MoneyGram and Western Union. We try to make it as convenient to people as possible. And we do have the facility now, thankfully, to accept debit and credit card. Shoot us a quick message on WhatsApp, and we send you that link. Very extremely secure. Your data, your information. We don't see any of it at this end. Extremely secure, and you guys never limit on how much or how little you guys can send. Every cent you send go towards bringing these programs to you, whether we're at home in Guyana or we're in Region 11 in the diaspora. It helps us to keep bringing these programs to. That being said, folks, we've got a couple of things we got to turn our attention to this morning. But good to see so many of you on the live. Debbie Collins is now getting us on the tube, and Hilali Clark and Jolly Anderson, Deborah Pearson, Edward Groves, all the other folks who are joining us. Gwen, you know yourself, Gwen. Thanks for joining us as well. We want to turn to some of the things that we actually covered this morning, rather, that we know cause you guys to cover. Besides my good looks and cause you wonderful folks to show up at our end. There's a couple of things we're following this morning, folks, in the morning papers and elsewhere. Elsewhere, as we turn the morning papers this morning, it was an interesting letter to the editor by one of the avid letter writers there in Guyana, Shamshun Mohammed. There's a red letter there on two fronts, October 5th, on two fronts. One, you got the trial, whatever you might call it, of those up charges for electoral fraud in Guyana, right? And then Airplane Ali has installed of it. They're going to be awarding the Democracy Award, whatever they term it. No, it's quite interesting because here you have this administration who for 3 years cannot get one conviction, can't get one conviction. In all of those, as we said, those trumped up charges there for electoral fraud brought against a number of persons. 3 years can't get one conviction, right? But they're handing out awards the day these cases go to trial. You know, they say they have the evidence now. They didn't have it for 3 years, but they have the evidence now. And I'm trying to find some notes. Couldn't find the evidence for 3 years, but they managed to find it now. You know, don't ask me how. They said they're finding the evidence now. It's quite different because in that same space of time, as you know, the US of A had an election after the one at this end, right? They had an insurrection and they had persons who were a part of a process to subvert, as they say here, the will of the people. Now, many of them have been not only charged, but convicted. Right? A charge is not a proven offense. Many of them have been convicted. I was looking for my notes here. Right? I'm going to call a couple of them for you. They're telling us from the Proud Boys alone, that organization that had their role to play. Joseph Biggs got 17 years. Zachary Reel got 15 years. Dominic Pizzola, he got some time as well. Right? Ethan Nordine got 18 years. And then Enrique Tario got 22 years. I think he got the highest amount. And there have been others since then. But in Guyana, real trumped up charges of electoral fraud. And so these issues, they say, are going to trial from the 5th of October. No convictions in 3 years. No convictions. In 3 years, looking for evidence, according to them. They have so much evidence to say who rigged and who rigged and who rigged, and none of that. No evidence today. But they're giving out awards for democracy. And that's why some of the things that Mr. Jagdio said yesterday in his press conference, Papa Jagabat said in that press conference yesterday, it's just mind-boggling because you would think we have, you know, alternate realities in Guyana, right? You got many, you know, it can be a lie and the truth at the same time. And that's my humble reasoning. It can be a lie and a truth all at the same time. So Shamshud Muhammad, he said to the editor, says it's a red letter day. Trials are beginning and awards are being given out the same day. We win. But we didn't see the results yet. It's quite interesting. It is quite interesting. We win. But we're not seeing the results as yet. And that is why in a portion of this press conference, when we heard Mr. Jagdio talking about democracy and what transpires in the US, and if Granger was in the US, they would have been before the courts and all that, is mind-boggling to us. If we really want to talk about democracy and we really want to report accurately on what happened during that period there, take a listen to what he said. Take a listen.
If we were in a democracy like the United States of America, Granger and Cathy Hughes and Ramjatan and Patterson and Harmon, a whole gang of them, would have probably been before the court now. Look at what happened in the US. A former president, Donald Trump, was charged on several counts for trying to thwart the will of the people. Now, he didn't actively go out every day and do so. They just said that he was behind the scenes, basically involved with the insurrection. And he got charged, facing several charges in the US. And the other people who were associated with that so-called conspiracy were charged. Here in Guyana, we had Granger, who for 5 months hung on to power. Everybody said, I think there's a joke made, he he prepared himself to be sworn in illegally three times. Every day they were on the TV trying to block the recount, going to court to change the will of the people. All of them would have been before the courts if they were living in the United States of America. They should thank God that we have a benign approach to this issue here. And so today we're not going to allow them to be the voice of democracy. Never allow them. They can never be the voice of freedom or democracy. They've always had an association with stealing elections, etc.
Today, incidentally, is International Day of Democracy. Believe it or not, incidentally, that's why he's really and truly wading into all of this. That is the backdrop. They want to have this foray into Washington on issues of victimization of Afro-Guyanese, marginalization of Afro-Guyanese. That's why they picked this period and not a period closer to when they have the conference, because they want this backdrop to be able to talk about democracy. But see, as we examine this, you see, apparently, like, we remember history differently. Apparently, we remember history differently. And if, according to Jagdeo, Mr. Granger and others are hiding because they have a weak government, he said we deal with issues in a benign way. That's not admittance that they have a very weak government, because if you got credible information that Cathy and Patterson and whoever else, Trotman and Granger, were involved in a process similar to Donald Trump, you're telling me we don't have the court system to deal with that? Huh? We don't have the court system to deal with that. But I want to really circle back to the fact, like, we remember history differently in this one Guyana of ours, because Mr. Granger during that period said repeatedly, I can't swear in myself. You see, he said, I will be guided by the results of GCOM to default. To default. To default. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. You heard Mr. Jagdeo, Laidio. Here is Granger during that period, that protracted period in our electoral process, on one of the occasions where he's explaining to the nation as president what's happening.
The elections were free and orderly. Subsequent events resulted in the prolongation of the electoral process well beyond the deadline for the declaration of results. That prolongation was occasioned by a delay owing to legal challenges in the Supreme Court of Judicature and the Court of Appeal. The opposition People's Progressive Party approached the Supreme Court on 3 separate occasions, obstructing the work of the Elections Commission. Those actions and the calls for recounts of ballots allowed for the Supreme Court to determine the way forward. The Elections Commission made several declarations pursuant to Section 84(1) of the Representation of the People Act subsequently. The Commission received requests from stakeholders for recounts in 10 electoral districts. I had agreed on the 15th of March that a total recount of the ballots from all electoral districts in regions 1 to 10 would take place urgently and in accordance with the Constitution, the applicable law, and the judgment of the court issued by Roxanne George, Chief Justice, on Wednesday, the 11th of March, 2020. I had agreed also that a high-level team from the Caribbean community, CARICOM, would be allowed to function only within the framework of the Constitution and under the aegis of the Commission and the rulings of the court. The Elections Commission then initiated a legitimate, transparent post-election process, which is well known and widely supported by the government and opposition, and which is expected to eventuate in an acceptable outcome through 4 sequential stages. I had committed on 30th of April that I shall accept the declaration of the results by the Elections Commission, which will allow for a democratically elected government to be sworn into office. I am committed to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. I respect the integrity and autonomous nature of the Elections Commission. I will abide by the declarations of the Elections Commission as I have abided by the rulings of the court.
Judge, you said President Granger wanted to rig the election. He agreed with stakeholders. We have a recount. He agreed with stakeholders. The CARICOM team, me, Martin, and them boys will come, and see what's happening. Right? PPP, as Mr. Granger said, this is not after, this is during that period. He's addressing the nation on one of those occasions, telling us what happened. PPP went to court several times to stall the work at GCOM. This is the president talking. But here is Mr. Jadvio with this revisionist history about rigged elections, and yet 3 years after, you don't have one conviction, like the US have in these several persons, right? Joseph Biggs convicted 17 years, Zachary, Dominic, Ethan, Enrique, convictions, not charges, convictions. But judge going on charges saying, we win, right? And they went and fighting these petitions in the court. And you heard Mr. Granger in his own deliberate judgment and words, talking about what we were seeing during that electoral process, during that recount process, rather. And saying consistently time and again, I will abide by what GCOM says. And even though he was not in agreement when the final recount was done and we saw all the anomalies, inconsistencies, right? You heard, we heard and saw the tales of the ID business on the East Coast and who was behind it and all of that. Who named was being called? Huh? He abided by what GCOM said. He abided by what the court said. But here, Jack Rio, who was caught in his living room making deals in his living room with Sue, making deals. He's coming to impugn the character of Mr. Granger. He's coming to impugn the character of Mr. Granger. folks, God don't like ugly, right? God don't like ugly. So those are just some of the things we're looking at this morning. But let's get a touch on some of what the other issues that we're looking at, folks, in the 592 this morning. You see this thing about revisionist history? The African proverb has to be right then. Until the lions, the proverb says, has their own historians, until the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Until the hunt. Folks, people are looking sideways of this video of children, they say, from Campbellville Secondary School in a fight. And one student being kicked to his head. His parents, his family want answers as to what led to that altercation. I watched the video, couldn't get through it. As hard as my stomach is, watching that child being kicked to his head and staggering, trying to get on his feet. Afterwards, parents want answers. What led to that? What led to it? It's very interesting because coming on the heels of that, I don't know if it is related, I see the Ministry of Education talking about more supervision for our students in school. I don't know if it's as a result of that. One cannot say, but these things tend not to be in isolation. Looking also about on what is happening in Bartica as well, and that, especially at the Bartica Secondary School, and it being understaffed because quite a few teachers from that school are at college, and the school was already lacking, they say, in a number of teachers. But questions are being asked. What transpired What are the circumstances that led to this fight of these children from the Campbellville Secondary School? Right? What led to that? What led to that altercation where one child is being stumped in his head? What led to that? So, folks, those are some of the issues that we're grappling with this morning. As I said, as the ministry is saying that it has this new policy about increased supervision for students in schools countrywide. The ministry has said for the new academic year and beyond, there will be an overhaul in the supervision of students, or right, an overhaul of the supervision of students from nursery to secondary. Hear what some of that entails. Right? The chief education officer said in a statement that this is because of the evolving dynamics of our education system requires synchronized changes and the allocation of teachers and their function within respective schools. This is necessary to improve supervision and student outcomes, more efficiently functioning schools as well. In nursery, the general guidelines now provide that a head teacher would no longer be counted as a teaching unit, whatever that means. Instead, a head teacher must now conduct a minimum of 8 supervision sessions, classroom supervisory visits, and walkthrough per week. Right? Guidelines also outline that multi-grade classes should be avoided when practicable and should be established only when there are less than 5 teachers per year group. Additionally, 2 teachers are to be assigned to any class with more than 15 students. One would have loved to see the minister, the chief education officer, and others explaining this to the nation in a press conference where questions might be asked. You all realize ministries and so on don't give press conference and so on. You ever saw the prime minister, not Jack Leo, the prime minister, not President Jack Leo, giving a press conference? One at jail? Have you ever seen that? No. They're not trusted to say anything. So the ministry comes out with this new policy that for the rest of us who aren't education policy wonks can make heads or tails of, but nobody comes out to explain, have questions to put to them, and to be able to explain to the man that the ordinary man understands. And they say we're doing well. Right? The headmistress is a teaching unit. What does that mean? One might ask, as a parent, asking for myself, what might that mean? The headmistress will not be deemed to be a teaching unit. What does that mean for the rest of us? What does it mean? Right? They want to say, I'm asking for the parents who may want to know. When they say this multi-grade classes should be avoided where practicable, what does that mean to the parents? What do they take away from that? My child's not going to be in a multi-grade class. What do they take from that? Right? But new guidelines for the supervision of children. Yeah, that's what the ministry is talking about this morning as well. And then we have a fisherman who is telling us, this is Anthony Bunaram, the fisherman, who burned down the house, the abode of a social media personality, Kubram Ramlal, a social media personality in Guyana, who is called Raka. Right? The fisherman burned down Raka's house and ended up burning the property next door as well. A one-story wooden structure next to Raka's abode. Sabbath News didn't tell us what led to this fiery end, but thankfully no one was injured or hurt at the time. But Anthony Bunaram, the fire starter, has been charged and was remanded to prison until October 10th. Has been charged and remanded, yeah. Burned down the house of Raqqa. No reasons given, but that's one of the things, folks, we're following this morning. And in other headlines we're following, you see fires, carnage on our roads and waterways. And the Lethem Trail, they're telling us a bus flipped over yesterday. Again, thankfully, no fatalities. But of course, persons are very shaken up. Very, very, very shaken up by what took place there. And those are just some of the issues we plucked out, some of the headlines making the rounds this morning. Some of the headlines making the rounds. Good to see so many of you on the live today. We see we got here with us Shelly Derrida, Sheila Boychild, Ingrid Ambrose, Gil Ali Cock is here with us. Folks, we hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. Your Friday's off to a running start. You hit the ground running this morning. Did you? Did you? Folks, we got so much we face in the 592. Fires and accidents, every day, folks, every day. Those are just a couple of things we're following this morning, a couple of the things making the headline. I want to bring you folks up to speed of some of what we're following internationally, regionally, and then we're going to circle back to some other issues we're looking at in the 592. This morning, we're going to try and be a hero. We had a very late start. We're not going to go for the full hour based on that late start and the fact that we have to run off. You have to run off too and do other things. But let's get through as much as we can. Now, Donald Trump says that it is unlikely he's going to pardon himself. Should he become president again? It's unlikely. You remember when Trump was them boys' friends? That they asked Trump to send Pompeo to help install them? And now they want others to be treated like Trump. They got it gall and the temerity. But Trump says, should he become president again, he's not going to pardon himself from these multiple indictments and multiple charges that he's facing currently. He got an uphill battle in the court system in the US of A with Trump on charges where charges, they couldn't find charges. Well charged up. He says he's not going to pardon himself, folks, if he becomes president again. Yep. Folks, I think this other story comes out of Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. People are asking if this youngster here, this Caucasian teenager, is being given preferential treatment. Now, he tried to drown, for all intents and purposes, a black teenager, right? John Sharon arrives for court. That's the photograph we have there. 14-year-old John Sharon is on a charge of attempted murder of a black teen that he was accused of luring. He's 14 years old, He's accused of luring to a pond, throwing rocks at, and attempting to drown them. Sharon was released from jail this week to the custody of his father, they tell us, after a court appearance. Here's the story here. John Sharon is also facing a charge of assault with a dangerous weapon over the July 19th incident at Goose Pond in Chatham, Massachusetts, right? In which police say Sharon dunked the victim underwater several times, knowing the black teen could not swim, and called him racial slurs. That's what the police says. As another friend of Sharon laughed and called the teen George Floyd. Folks, 14 years old. And he tortured him. 14 years old. That's what the police said. He dumped the black teen's head in the pond several times, knowing fully well he couldn't swim. Hurled racial slurs at him. My little friend said, use George Floyd. We got to pray for our kids, eh? Pray for our kids. Fight for them. Where he learned that? At 14. Let's be honest. Let us be fair. At 14 years old, where did he learn that? And folks call this white privilege. Where did he learn that? Your guess is as good as mine. Folks, things happening regionally. Regionally. The Dominican Republic, next door to Haiti, they closed the borders. They said too much. The president there of the Dominican Republic, he says too much filtering over the borders. And he asks that the borders with Haiti be closed temporarily. This is what's happening right in our world. Right in our world. Close the borders. I think we took too long, CARICOM that is, to intervene and to help with what's happening here in Dominica. This is a sister CARICOM country. We took a little too long to step in, to try to help, to try to play a meaningful role. We got to do more. Right? The president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, yesterday issued an order for the complete closure of the country's border with Haiti, encompassing land, air, and sea routes, effective from 6 a.m. this morning. Right? 6 a.m. this morning. That is to tell you what's happening, how the temperature is heating up in Haiti, that the Dominican Republic closed its borders. We got to do more for Haiti, friends. Friends, we got to do more for Haiti. CARICOM, we got to do much more. Much more for Haiti. Much more. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the opposition says the current government, led by Rav Gonzalez, has failed its young people. That's not us. That's the folks right there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So they failed the people. Right? The New Democratic Party, the NDP, says the ruling party, the ULP, the United Labour Party, is failing its young people. And they're taking them to task for that. It's time for a national campaign. This is your opposition. It's time for a national campaign to enable young people to make a good life for themselves in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because under the current government, led by Raul Gonzalez, they have not been able to do so. We could talk about things at our end. We could talk about so much at our end. We're happy when we see young people going on and doing good things with their lives. We're happy. And we have to continue to create that enabling environment which allows them to do so. We just at the 9 o'clock hour and we're hastening to wrap up. We started 20 minutes or so late because of the challenges we had with video and audio, and we want to apologize for that. We're hastening to the finish line. NGSA, they're telling us it's going to be May, I think 4th and 5th. Let me just circle back and make sure that we got that information correctly. I think they're telling us it's on May 4th and 5th, but I want to make sure that we're accurate towards that end. Yeah, May 2nd. It's set for May 2nd. Yeah, good thing. May 2nd and 3rd. NGSA, the National Grade 6 Assessment. So parents, we're wishing you the best. We know by now, you're on the stretch. This is not a one-term process. It's not a one-year process. Parents start preparing these kids for NGSA 2 years in advance, 3 years in advance, getting them, thinking and operating in a certain manner. We feel it, parents ourselves. We feel it for you guys. We know it's you and them kids writing those exams. In lots of instances, you're more anxious than the kids themselves. May 2nd and 3rd, they're telling us, our children are heading to National Grade 6 Assessment, and we want to wish all of our parents not only the very best, wish those children the best, as well as you continue to prepare them. Yep, that's what's happening on that front. And, we do good wherever we are. I remember as a law student, one of the things that we were told, and in those early criminal law class, when you all go to UE, beat them. You must beat them. We ain't talking physical fight the way they were doing things there at Campbellville Secondary School. You know, this is academically, how you compete academically. And one of our girls, she's gone on to top U Wooding Law School, and this is Rhea Harris. She is the valedictorian 2023 at U Wooding Law School, and we want to say congrats to her. You know, no small feat to go to another man's country, beat them out. And I think you have other students from other nationalities who go to U Wooding like us too, right? You beat out the Trinidadians, you beat out whoever else is there, and to come to the top of that, Rhea Harris did it. And we want to say congrats to her. This is what we want to see our young people doing, you know, pushing themselves to academic excellence. Of course, policymakers and stakeholders, parents and others, got to ensure that we create that enabling environment that allows them to do that. We want to say congrats to Rhea Harris, and we hope that she goes on to great things. We're looking for, you know, good things, more good things out of folks like Rhea Harris. You know, I went through a law class with so many people. I wonder where they are now. You know, all the humanitarians we had and freedom fighters, and I don't know half of them. But valedictorian Rhea Harris, I want to say congrats to her, and looking forward to other great things out of Rhea. This is what we want to see our young people doing, you know, channeling themselves in positive endeavors, you know, channeling themselves in positive endeavors, quite like Latifah Ford, who is currently in Jamaica preparing for the Miss Global International pageant. She's hoping to beat out 20 other young women for that coveted title there, right? That's going down shortly in, as I said, in Jamaica. And this is the Miss Global International, trying to find my bearings. Yeah, the Miss Global International pageant is going down in Jamaica, and Ghana's very own Latifah Ford, you know, smart young lady. Again, whether passion for your thing, and you know, whatever it's your thing, if it's good, you know, it's productive. We're there with you. We're there with you. So we're wishing Latifah all the best there as she prepares in Jamaica. We love to see our young people moving forward positively too. She is currently a fourth-year medical student at the Lincoln American University of Medicine. Believe it or not, you know, moving forward academically. She has an interest in gynecology and cardiology. Right? That's what we like to see. But of course, I can balance it out for young people and said and say that we have to create that enabling environment as well. Right? So go down the line, Ms. Ford. Go down the line. We're wishing you nothing but the very best. Wish you nothing but the very best. That's what we're falling on that front for. And penultimately, before we wrap up, the Mahdia Commission of Inquiry is meeting today. The Mahdia Commission of Inquiry is meeting today. A couple of ministers are going to be taking the stand, they tell us, and some witnesses also for that horrific Mahdia fire that occurred on the PPP's watch. We lost 20 of our young people. As you know, they done try to bribe the family with a $5 million. No compensation is on the terms of reference. We told you of Paul's slow take on all of that quite recently. That COI, the hearings begin today. So a couple of ministers and a couple other witnesses are going to be part of that inquiry and the hearing during the course of today. And of course, Ali's in Washington ahead of the Washington Conference of Guyana, the Washington Conference on Guyana, hosted in part by the Caribbean Guyana Institute of Democracy, led by Rickford Burke, and other like-minded organizations here in the diaspora. They're trying to blunt the momentum and some of what's going to come out of that, some of the output from that conference on the 27th, 28th in Washington, D.C., in which we're going to bring you as many updates as we can. They met recently with the Congressional Black Caucus, and would only say that that meeting was an informative meeting They're meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus. It was an informative meeting. That's one of the things about this trip. You're not getting too much of details. Not getting too much of details at all. Again, only saying it was an informative meeting, the meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus. And we're learning also that they met with Congressman, the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and they said that they were very, very quick to say that Jeffries did not raise any issue of marginalization or victimization of Afro-Guyanese in Guyana. Right? That's what they said. They didn't tell us what they raised in the meeting. They would only say what Jeffries didn't raise. Right? They would only say what Jeffries did not raise. But of course, this is something that we are following consistently. If Penali goes to Washington, we're following that in our lead up to this historic conference, by any measure, that's going to happen in Washington, D.C. This is the Washington, D.C. Conference on Guyana, as I said, being sponsored by the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy and other like-minded organizations. And of course, the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy is led by Brickford Burke. We are going to take our leave here because we know that you folks got your own day plan and it doesn't include us every step of the way. And we have to also rush off and get a couple of things done on our side as well. Folks, we are privileged being here with you again. We apologize for that false start. Edward Brooms, Sharon Castro, Edwards, Yolanda Thomas, and all the other folks joining us. Continue, folks. Please and thank you to support our program financially. Folks, your love, your support, your generosity goes a far way. Keeps us on air, keeps us moving forward, bringing you folks valid, credible information. So we ask you guys to remember us during the course of this month. We got our own expenses at this end. Doing stuff like this, being out in the diaspora, kind of cover what's of interest to Guyanese, especially conferences like the one coming up in Washington, D.C. Is not cheap at all. And we never put a limit at the bottom or the top on how much you can donate to our program. But we have all of the facilities that enables you to contribute to our programs. We have a facility now that accepts your credit and debit card. Simple process. We send you a quick link, and you can do that very privately. We don't store any of your information, and all of it. It's very secure. Cash App is available, Zelle and PayPal. Hit us up on WhatsApp. Ask us for any information where those platforms are concerned. We can send you that as quickly as possible. We need your support this month, especially. We need your support to get from point A to point B. No, folks. But you guys love helping us in this way because we're going to continue to bring you folks valid, credible information. 9:10 at our end, folks. So long and farewell until our next broadcast. Of course, we have an asterisk over our program this evening because we are going to be moving to get to that event there in Georgia. And if we get set up in time in Georgia, we're going to be on. If not, you're going to see a no program this evening. So just putting you on alert for that. We are going to be on the ground and moving. And we're trying to be heroes in that regard. Donna Daly, Hubert Reed, Kurt Heidekin, Timur George, and Yolanda Thomas, Marilyn, Karen Castro, Edwards, Charles Nelson, Rio, Margaret Nelson, all the other folks joining us this morning. Good to have you folks on the live. Share the broadcast. Smash that emoji for us. That's going to do it for us. At this end, that's time.